Hey friends, welcome back to the Moms in the Middle Talks conversation. Today I have Ashley and Kristen with me, and we are excited to talk about community, connection, one of my favorite things. And but first, as always, we want to share who we are, just in case you're just now finding us and hearing us on someone's podcast or YouTube. So we want to just share for a minute who we are and what we do and how we serve. So we'll start with Kristen.
Okay, I am Kristen Chadwick. I am the host of Holistic Hearts podcast, where we talk about just the transformational Christian journey that we're on, all things mind, body, and spirit. And I also own a podcast management company, which is so much fun to encourage others to get their voices out there.
Yeah,
I love it. All right, Ashley. Miss Hype Woman, let's do this.
I know. I don't know how much hype I have left in me, though. I'm kind of sleep deprived. But I am Ashley, the So She Grows podcast host. And like Michelle says, I call myself the Hype Mom. I am like your journey partner in growing in motherhood, life, and marriage. And I just like to encourage moms along the way to what I call is like the best years, like your 30s, but like, why not start it sooner? So yeah, just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I love that. And I wish I'd have had you in my life when I was younger. And with
I wish I would have had me in my life.
Yeah, right? Don't we all? So of course, I'm Michelle Porterfield, host of the Set Free Sisterhood podcast. And I really just help women ditch the wine witch, stop over drinking, help them get control and begin to thrive and just create the life of fulfillment and walk into what God's calling them to do and be. And it's my pleasure. So today we're going to talk about community. So I know we all use different terms for this. So my first question is, what does having community in this season of your life right now where you are, what does that mean to you?
So good. Ashley, do you want to go?
I feel like, and I think most people as they get older relate to this, or at least I've heard every single person say this, is like right now it means like fewer and deeper, more meaningful relationships with people who, you know, I don't have to be exactly like them, but, you know, just people that I feel like I can do life with and be encouraged. Like I fill their cup, they fill mine. You know, it's like not a one-sided relationship, but I think it means a lot. Like life, especially if you have kiddos or, you know, just in general, you have to do it with other people. Otherwise it's extremely hard to do on your own. It's extremely isolating. So man, it's something that I like have put a lot of value in, probably too much, I feel like, but I really desired it. And I feel like now, better late than never, but like now I'm in that season where, you know, I do get to enjoy those relationships and that support and then be there for other people and show up. And so, yeah, I feel like community is huge.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Just that really honing in on those few friendships that just need that intimacy, you know, factor, at least in my life as I'm 40 now, feeling like I am not about the like just fluff friendships. I'm all about the let's go deep. I like that's what I need in my life, and that's what I long for. So surely other people want that too. And there are people that do just want the fluff, and that's what they are all about, and that's great. But for me personally, my community are the friends that have stuck it out through many, many different seasons and keep asking me the hard questions, and I keep asking them the hard questions. And it's not about fluff. It's about really, how is your heart? So community is, in my terms, is people that care for my heart and I care for their heart.
Mm. Yes, amen to all that. Because so many times in seasons of life, I think we put ourselves around people that will just validate what we're dealing with and like be our kind of cheerleaders, just to like agree with what we're dealing with. And what I found is the most fulfilling relationships are those that challenge you and ask you the hard questions, and you're able to do the same. And I agree with both of y'all. Like it's huge for me. Community is great. And it is a smaller group, because intimacy is reserved for a small few, and not everybody wants it. Not everyone is going to be able to have the capacity to hold that space as a friend, and that's fine too. So it can look really different. And then kind of the next phase was, and I was like, this was so me, but was there a time, I know for me, a lot of it was during my drinking days where I was just kind of in the loop of, not really living life, just kind of doing life and responding to stress and the schedule and the kids and work and coming home, where I actually chose to isolate. And it was, alcohol will actually kind of whisper, that's okay to do that. So has there ever been a time when you were more isolated, and did you choose it? Did you not? How did it affect you?
I'll answer that. I will say, my husband and I went through a really like death season in our marriage. Like our marriage, the way it was, had to die. And that season, we really pulled away from our core group of friends because we needed to go inward. And there was a lot of healing there. And there was a lot of turmoil and conversation around like, hey, what's going on with you two? You're like super alone. And I truly believe it was a both and. Like, yes, our capacity is right here between the both of us right now. And we were challenged in that season of, now more than ever, you guys need people rallying around you. And so we played with both. There was a good 6-8 months of, we didn't go to barely any social events, really didn't commit to much outside of our marriage. And then having our community be like, hey, like, this is not healthy. Which like I said, I think it was both and. There was a season where we really had to cocoon, and that's what we called it, is we got to get back to a healing state. And then we can invite other people around us to hold us accountable and all those things. So.
Yeah. For me, it was the reason that I started the podcast in the first place. We were the youngest couple in our friend group, in our home group, in our church home to have kids. Everybody else hadn't had kids yet. And so, and then I was also 21 when I got pregnant. So all my friends were still like from college, partying and going out and doing things, and would invite us to dinner at like 9:00, and like that just wasn't our life anymore. And so we were ready to ditch all that, parenthood took us by surprise, but we were ready to dive into it wholeheartedly and like do it right. Like we wanted to, go to church and do all these things, but we found that like there was nowhere that we fit in. And I really struggled with that because I was extremely isolated when I was pregnant. I had hyperemesis, so it was like morning sickness 24/7. And so like I didn't talk to anybody, didn't want to talk to anybody. I was sick. Nobody could relate to my pregnancy. We couldn't like celebrate it together. We couldn't like nothing. And so then I spent like a long time just really like craving relationships and wanting friendships and like, but I think that what I have learned and like what I've even talked to you guys about is like sometimes like I feel like it was partly like a genuine desire for community, which we all need in some shape or form. But then like also it was me trying to find what I needed to find in myself or in God in like those relationships. And I wanted them to show up in the way that I needed to show up, but I could only find through healing or through, God or whatever. And so like I just kept searching and searching for that through them. And so it became like an unhealthy, like I don't have any friends. Even then, even when people were showing up because they weren't what I thought I needed or what I thought, you know, they could give me, they weren't giving me the right things or whatever. And so I've been learning and still working through like, okay, why? Okay, like, if people are meeting me how I am, like I need to meet them how they are. And it needs to be like me just wanting to show up in the best way possible, even if like there's nothing received on my end and, you know, just a lot of soul searching. But yeah, like, man, in my 20s throughout my pregnancies, like I had 3 kids. So every single time I had hyperemesis, it was like, bye guys, like I'll see you. And like basically after 9 months, you know, like don't talk to me, don't come near me. Because my nausea was just like so bad. I couldn't even, and a lot of people can't relate to that, you know, and that was really hard. But, yeah, I think that was like the main isolation point, I think.
Yeah. And I think we do, for different reasons, make choices to isolate. And sometimes, like Kristen said, there may be a season where there's something, a very intimate relationship like your spouse or something going on that it requires that. Or if you are in a circle or being exposed to people in your life that's pulling you a different direction, you have to do that too. And then it also is really a huge tactic of the enemy. And so he's going to tell you that whatever you have going on, it's only you, you know, you're wrong. You're not good enough. Don't dare tell anyone, you know, you better keep this secret to yourself and you better, you know, keep coping and keep hiding because you never want to be, you know, never want to be seen or be outed. And so for me, because that's so powerful, I have seen lives completely transformed when they finally just raise their hand and were like, hey, I'm dealing with this and I need support. And typically, if you're in the right circumstance and you're in the right group of people, like I have found in my communities, like they're going to dive in and help you and serve you. And then that immediately is going to open you up to freedom. So
Absolutely.
that's huge. So huge. And it doesn't have to be face to face. You know, we've obviously been, this world we've been in for 2 years, you know, it's just insane. But it doesn't always have to be face to face. I'm so glad. I know that people are looking forward to the holidays and they're looking forward to connection. And there's going to be a lot of emotions and sadness just because too. But just face to face and in your local neighborhood is not the only place to find community and connection. I've never met these women. I've never touched y'all. You know, like we've never been in a physical space together. Several of my friends in, you know, Ohio, Arizona, Norway, like we have great relationships and yet we've never touched each other. So we can't continue to make excuses just because there's nobody locally of my age or how do I meet new friends? There's ways to do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say,
yeah, it's intimidating to make new friends.
It is.
Yeah.
I think what you said, Michelle, about, you know, when you can feel like you're the only one in the world that's going through something or that shame or, I know for me, like with, you know, like with my kiddo who I'm pulling out of public school. I mean, I literally just had a friend say to me, where is someone you could talk to that knows what you're going through? Like find online people that have walked through the same thing that he's walked through and talk to them. And that same scenario of like, well, nobody really understands in my friend group because they don't have the exact situation. They might have a similar situation, but then that effort to ask for sympathy instead of empathy, right, is there. So that can stop you, you know, thinking that your situation is so different than somebody else's. But you're so right that we can go online, and I know exactly what Facebook group to go ask, and that they have kids all very similar to mine, and I could reach out. It's as simple as that these days. There is good things about online social media.
Yeah. Well, and
So,
that's why we all, we all have groups,
mhm.
so you don't have to go into this sea of people or the randomness of just Facebook friends, but find a community that actually pertains to something that you care about, that
Yes.
and then just be intentional of connecting in those places. Like, that's the thing about me. A lot of my friendships have come from online challenges I was in, or something about personal growth. The women that I'm working with now, they're in this boot camp together. They'll always have the connection. So all you got to do is insert yourself into a community of something. They're like, those seem like those might be my people. And just
Mhm.
say, hey, where are y'all from? I'm from South
Mhm.
Carolina. Anybody close around here? Or where are you at? You want to set up a Zoom and have a coffee date? It's really
Yeah.
that simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get in our heads about it though, and we're like, oh, what should I say? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I come? Like, we just do this whole thing in our heads. And I think the thing that I'm learning right now, and I mean, we've all heard it 1,000 times, but like, for whatever reason, it's just now sticking. But like, it's like nobody else is paying attention to you as much as you think that they are. Like, we all have our own stuff going on. Like, we all are busy, whatever. So if somebody doesn't text you back immediately, it's not this like, you don't go in this thought spiral of like, oh my gosh, it was too much. I said the wrong thing. They think I'm this, they think I'm that, like, and we do that to ourselves. And then because we fear that, we don't even reach out to somebody in the first place, and put ourselves out there. And then we feel like, then we get in situations where we have kiddos and we're at home and you're not reaching out and you feel isolated, and so does the mom next door, right? Like,
Yep.
so like, we just gotta get out of our heads a little bit and get into people's DMs a little bit more, or like, text them. I think one thing that I've been trying to do more is like texting people, like even friends that I haven't talked to in a long time, to just tell them like, hey, like, I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you, and or that you're such an awesome mom. I saw that post that you did on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. And because I know that when you're like in the mess of motherhood and in the mess of just life in general, sometimes even if it's somebody you didn't even talk to for a year or something, like, them just speaking life into you is like, wow, like somebody sees me, somebody appreciates me, like, and that can be like life-giving.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, and that's huge. That's huge when it relates to just, how's your walk? How's your relationship with the Lord?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the Holy Spirit puts people on your mind and your heart. And
Mhm.
when he does, then it can be that
Mhm.
simple, that person just
Mhm.
needs to hear from someone today.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do y'all believe as we finish up, what do you believe that God says about this? What does he say about community?
He is the Trinity. So he's always in community. So he's always pointing to unity.
Mhm.
We're not supposed to live in isolation at all.
Mhm.
That's just part of growing and maturing and rubbing each
Mhm.
other the wrong way, the right way, encouraging. Yeah, I'm all about that unity. Nobody
Yeah.
should go alone. That's
Mm-mm.
for sure.
Yeah. And I think he's exampled so many times, like, being in community, even when it's uncomfortable, like inviting people in that you don't relate to, or, you've come from different backgrounds. Like, he's had people at his table that have been prostitutes and like, other this, that, and the other. Right. And like, so what that would look like today is moms that maybe are in a different field of work, or, they're corporate moms, and you're like, hey, so like, and then you have conversations about that. Like, hey, what is that like for you? That must be hard. Like, because that's not the life that I lead, right? I'm at home and I'm working from home, or I'm doing this, that, and the other. And so, yeah, I think that if anything, that's kind of like, everybody says we can't relate to the Bible, it's old school or whatever, but I think that's a perfect example of how we can, right? Like, community and gathering people around your table, even when it's not convenient for you, sometimes, even when it's awkward, like, I don't know. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I just think about, like, why in the world would he made so many of us if he didn't want us to hang out?
Right.
I mean, that
That is
would
a
just
good point.
not make sense, just the gathering of the church, or just the gathering
Right.
and celebrations and things like that. Like, that's what we intended for.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think it's cool. I love, that's a great dynamic of, stay-at-home mom versus corporate mom, because I think so many times it's like we look at how different are they, and how like, and we can be even judgy about that. And it's like, well, if we just seek to understand, their dreams and their desires and how they were made and why they do what they do, and then there'll be some common ground for sure. They can be some shared, encourage each other, because there may be things that you have. Because, I always worked with my kids, and it amazes me when people can like have a schedule and function with being at home with their kids. I thought, well, man, I go to work so I can have a schedule. I feel like I would just be all over the place. And then we can just learn so much from each other. And I just think it's cool. But I think it's just also something that we learn as we grow and we mature. And that's why we're having this conversation, because it may just open up someone to get creative and maybe speak to someone. I think that's the thing, is like, if there's somebody that maybe you see that you're like, wow, like she looks interesting, I wonder what she's like or whatever, like just ask her. Do you know how awesome it would feel? Like if you were asked like, oh my God, I've seen your post and I love what you're doing. I would love to connect with you. Like, how exciting would that be? I would never be like, no, I don't want to talk to you. Or
yeah. Or even if somebody does say no, then that's okay, right? Like it's the wrong person, wrong time. So I think, for me, it was like heartbreaking that I felt like I was so isolated and didn't have any friends. But I think that, it was a lot of growth happened with myself, and that a lot of learning, a lot of not leaning on other people for the things that I needed to figure out on my own or do on my own or heal on my own. And so now I'm looking at it like, okay, it was wrong time, wrong people. Like he was, protecting me, because I probably would have reached, I was probably reaching for people that he was like, girl, like that's not it. Right. And so then he's like, okay, now you're ready. You can show up as the person that they need, or the best version of yourself. You can show up as a better friend or whatever. And so sometimes, like for moms who are watching, like if you feel like you're in the season of, I don't have any friends, I'm so alone, it's part reaching out on your part, but then it's also like, maybe this is a season of growth of yourself. Like maybe, it's time to focus on your relationship with him. It's time to focus on your relationship with your husband, or, whatever else, and just have faith in that, like those people will come. You have to reach out to them, but they will come, and it'll be the right people, and it'll be worth it.
Great.
Very good. I love that.
It's kind of like the puppies in the background, Ashley, that are romping around together.
Can you see them? If y'all saw me walking around, like my head was cut off while I was, because I had to take them potty, and then they both went like opposite directions. So I had to turn my camera off because I was like running. But anyways, go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, they are so cute. No, I think that's great. And I think it's just a matter of really looking at community as how can this glorify God, and how can I serve, not always going into it for me, what can they do for me, but how can I serve? Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, ladies. Great conversation, and I know it will help someone. And you guys know where to find us on all of our places, and I'll put it in the show notes when I post it up on the Set Free Sisterhood podcast. And have a great week.
Yeah, you too.
Bye, guys.